Ahern, Channel 5.
Mayor, as of today, 158 Expressway shootings. Denise Huglet could not make it home from the White Sox game last week. More than twice the number of last year's. What else can be done?
Well, I think that we've got to do more in partnership with the state police to identify whether or not there are any particular patterns. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of these disputes are playing out on social media, whether it's Facebook Living or using some other kind of interactive social media platform, and then following each other. But the biggest thing is we've got to be united in our focus on rooting out this gang activity and going after the gangs, because that's really what the heart of the problem is. These are not random shootings. They're shootings being played out by dangerous gang members who have access to firearms, and we've got to do more collectively to hold them accountable. As you know, I don't control the courts or the jails, but we've got to continue to work in partnership with the county to make sure that really dangerous people are kept off the streets and that they're held accountable. I've been doing everything that I can to work in concert and collaboration with our county partners, but we need them to step up and do more, and I am willing to be at the table with them to do whatever it takes. But I do appreciate all the work that's been done by the state police. They've been tremendous partners for us from really the beginning of my administration through a lot of different issues, and we've got to continue to make sure that that partnership is strong. But also, if there's no accountability, then there are no consequences, then the brazenness is just going to continue. The focus has to also be on accountability for the people who are wreaking harm in our community.
The FDA approved Pfizer today.
Yeah.
Where should people go? Do you envision a mass vax site again? And any new information on whether city employees will be required to be vaxxed as the county employees are?
City employees are absolutely going to be required. You can let her have one more. Yeah, city employees are absolutely going to be required to be vaccinated. We're working through those discussions, which have been ongoing now for a couple of weeks, with our colleagues in organized labor that represent city employees, but we absolutely have to have a vaccine mandate. It's for the safety of all involved, particularly members of the public who are interacting with city employees on a daily basis. It's important for colleagues to also feel like they have a workplace that is safe. So a vaccine mandate from the city will come, and we'll make specific announcements in the coming days.
On where any vax sites? What about
this? You know, we've been talking about that. As you know, there's been some speculation on the part of the CDC that it will require a booster shot. So we're in conversation with them to think about, and we've already started the process of planning for any other logistical work that needs to be done. In the short term, I don't believe that we will need to stand up the huge vaccination sites that we've seen before, but a lot of that is going to depend on what the final CDC guidance is, and obviously making sure that we've got the logistical and other resource support. But where we're focused right now is on the unvaccinated. You've heard me say this before, but I think it bears repeating. Where we see that well over 97% of the people who are showing up in hospitals and ending up in ICU beds, or worse, ending up in death, are among the unvaccinated, we know that there's a lot more work to be done. We have some zip codes, I think there's 6 to 8 of them, primarily on the south side of our city, where we have 30% or less vaccination rates. That's really where our Department of Public Health and our partners are focusing our efforts. If we really significantly raise the number of people and the percentage by neighborhood, by zip code, who are vaccinated, then we're going to go a long way in starting to see the pandemic in the rearview mirror. But where we've got numbers like that in certain zip codes where we're 30% or less, we've got work to do. There's only a small number of zip codes on the other end of the spectrum that are 80% or more, concentrated, not surprisingly, in the downtown and on the north side, because a lot of the healthcare workers live in those neighborhoods. That's where we started our vaccination efforts. So we've just got to keep pushing more and more people who are on the fence, that are unvaccinated, to get vaccinated.
From Alex Nitkin at the Daily Line. Alderman Austin is scheduled to chair her first meeting tomorrow for contacting oversight and facilities since she was indicted. Do you think it is still appropriate for her to be presiding over that committee?
Look, I've been very clear from the beginning of my time as mayor. I think it's virtually impossible for an alderman to be able to fulfill their responsibilities to their ward and residents who are in need, particularly now, when they have the sword of Damocles hanging over their head, and that is a federal indictment. I've had that conversation with Alderman Austin. I will continue to be in dialogue with her, but I think it's very difficult for her to be able to do her job, just as it is the others who are indicted. It's an extraordinary thing that we have 3 sitting aldermen indicted. That's not a good thing for our city.
Mayor Mariah Woolfo from WBEZ, right here.
Hi, Mayor. Good to see you. The young ex-Park District lifeguard who wrote your office says she's disappointed in you, frankly, and would like to see you fire Mike Kelly and Avis Lavelle. What would you say to her? What would you have to say to her?
Well, I think we already said it in a statement that we sent you all last night, and that is, I take these issues very seriously. I have served in, unfortunately, many jobs as a woman of color where I've been sexually harassed. It's not a fun experience. It's very demoralizing, and it makes people angry. And so I absolutely understand her passion and her anger about what is alleged to have happened to her. But I think the most important thing that we can do now is what I've urged, which is, number one, we've got to get this IG investigation done, but it's got to be without any influence from the outside. IGs have to be able to do their work independently, thoroughly, and expeditiously. Lots of people are going to have opinions about what should and what shouldn't happen, but what we ought to be focused on is giving the IG space to be able to do her work, completed in a timely fashion, and I look forward to reading the findings and recommendations.
Two follow-ups on that. One, specifically on her call for firing of Mike Kelly.
And I'm going to repeat to you exactly what I just said. Right now, I understand what her anger and her frustration is. She's made that very, very clear. I get it. That's why we acted promptly when we saw her letter and sent it over to the Park District, and then it was forwarded to the IG. We've got to let the IG do their work without litigating this in the press. That's not appropriate.
Speaking on IG independence, how can you be sure that the IG is operating independently? Who's informed you of that? And on that as well, why not turn this case over to the state's attorney? You've said you would welcome law enforcement.
There's nothing that stops the state's attorney from acting. There's nothing that stops law enforcement from acting. The IG, I thought, put out a very robust statement just last week explaining exactly the independence of her investigation. I don't have any reason to doubt what she put in writing and said. But again, we have to allow the IG to finish her work and not litigate this in the press where you have pieces of information, he's got pieces of information. The IG is the one that's going to be able to see the whole picture, and I think we have to respect her process and let her finish her work.
All right, Mauricio Peña from Block Club.
Why is the city offering park space to Amazon lockers for so cheap? Has the city offered similar opportunities to local small businesses?
So again, I want to just correct the premise of your question. The Park District is an independent entity. We don't control the Park District operations. The Park District has made a determination that one of the ways in which it wants to generate revenue is by allowing Amazon to have space in its parks. So you've got to go to them and ask that question. But we welcome innovative ideas on the part of any of our sister agencies to raise revenue that doesn't result in raising taxes.
Everyone have a great day.
All right, thank you all.